As an aspiring game dev, I've always loved games and had dreams of making my own for as long as I can remember. In today's video, I've compiled a list of games which have inspired me from the PlayStation 1 generation, my first taste of fully 3D games. All of the games listed are ones which I played on the original console back in the day, and considering this is only part 1, there are many more to come. Let's start with one of my greatest games of all time, Final Fantasy VII. Final Fantasy games were extraordinary on the PS1, and FF7 is widely considered as the best entry in the franchise. The game has spawned so many spin-offs, a movie, and a modern day remake on current hardware, and it absolutely deserves all of it. Being the first 3D game in the series also made FF7 a big deal, with a solid cast of characters whom are all still memorable today, and a world which is very much connected to the troubles of our real life equivalent, with mass pollution and poisoning of the planet. The game in my eyes is timeless, despite the aging of the graphics. Metal Gear Solid. Hideo Kojima, in my eyes, is a revolutionary game developer. If you're the type of gamer who enjoys story, then look no further, as MGS will pull you into one of the deepest video game narratives, even by today's standards. It blew my mind then, and continues to do so when I try to comprehend how a game of this magnitude could be made on the PS1, when other games at the time were much more simplistic in their own narratives. This is a masterpiece, and quite possibly the greatest game I've ever played. I was never much into stealth games, but MGS handles the genre so well, in addition to being so full of personality. I would love nothing more than to see a modern remake. Even with the existence of the GameCube remake, I still would love to see how the game can evolve with modern hardware. Resident Evil. The one which started it all. I remember playing the sequels at friends and my uncle's, and then shortly after coming across the original game on sale in a local game shop. Admittedly, I was a little underage for this game at the time, but that didn't stop me putting on a brave face and try to survive a mansion full of zombies, mutated animals, and other monstrosities. The music was so haunting, with zombies moaning from across the rooms and hallways, and the fact that you couldn't see directly in front of you made the whole experience quite traumatic. It will always remain as the scariest video game experience of my life up to this point, with only games such as Silent Hill, PT, and Dead Space coming close. Trying to navigate around the creepy locations with limited ammo and health supplies was unlike anything I had experienced before. As an aspiring game dev, I am currently attempting to create my very own classic survival horror in this vein. Crash Bandicoot. Moving on to something a little light-hearted, Crash Bandicoot was a true mascot for the PlayStation brand. The spin mechanic was so ridiculously brilliant as you destroyed boxes for apples, Wumpa fruit, to gain additional lives, and earning a gem if you destroyed 100% of the boxes in each stage. Some of the levels were more challenging than others, but overall the game had a fun collection of worlds with enough additional content to keep you busy. Perhaps not the longest of games, but one with a lot of replayability, which would only improve with the subsequent sequels. Tekken 3. I mentioned in the previous video about the Sega Mega Drive games which inspired me that 1v1 beat-em-ups weren't really my thing. I had played some of Tekken 2 at a friend's, and when I came across the third game in a local game shop, I was a little hesitant about buying it. I'm glad I did though, as Tekken 3 is by far the best Tekken game on PS1 and my favourite beat 'em up of all time. The game was packed full of content with a story mode for every single character, as well as bonus modes such as Tekken Ball and a homage to side-scrolling brawlers such as Streets of Rage. Just talking about the game gives me an urge to play it all over again. I must have sunk an insane amount of time into the game, both solo and with friends, and it's also the last fighting game I ever gave that much attention to. For me, the game was that good that it piqued the entire genre. Of course, feel free to disagree. As I said, I'm not the best source for fighting games. Silent Hill. Whilst Resident Evil has most of my love for the survival horror genre, Silent Hill is still pretty close with its own style of lingering horror. The game offers a completely different atmosphere and set of scares, as unlike in Resi, you don't control a special ops officer. You're completely inexperienced with weapons, and it shows with the way you hold and swing the melee and projectile weapons at your disposal. Silent Hill also has the more interesting and mysterious story of the two, as you really have no idea what's going on until major revelations later in the game, with the entire game keeping you on edge with its unsettling world. It's such a shame that Silent Hill hasn't managed to keep up with Resident Evil in recent years, as it's such a fantastic series that is in desperate need of a reboot. Spyro the Dragon. As with Crash Bandicoot, Spyro was another strong mascot for the PlayStation brand. This was a time when more cartoony characters really thrived and got the full attention they deserved. Unlike Crash's more linear levels, Spyro had you exploring wider looping stages as you completed multiple objectives in order to progress to further worlds. I do love Crash, but I think Spyro has a more chill vibe going for it, and it's definitely the easier experience if you're just looking to explore with a light, charming adventure. It's no surprise that both Spyro and Crash received full trilogy remakes, and I'd highly recommend those as they still hold up perfectly today with a new lick of paint. Jammer Lammy. One of the most obscure and wild inclusions on this list. If you've ever played or heard of Parappa the Rapper, then you know exactly what to expect here. Instead of rap, you play through a bunch of fun rock tracks in a trippy rhythm game as you wake up late and must find your way to the gig you're scheduled to play at. Naturally, things get in the way, with each obstacle introducing you to a new character and song which you must complete to be worthy of progressing. The track in the hospital when they deliver the babies still haunts me to this day, yet still catchy as hell. Oddworld, Abe's Oddysee. Perhaps the funniest and most loved character ever created. Abe is a very likeable character who is just trying to make it through in life until suddenly the meat farm where he works begins to lose a lot of profits, and the only feasible way to overturn that is to start harvesting Abe's race. In a massive panic, Abe must escape Rupture Farms, setting free as many of his kind as possible there and out in the wild. The more you rescue, the better ending you will receive. Taking control of enemy creatures with Abe's mind control was a great mechanic, and each location really made you think in order to survive and save as many as possible. This is another game which received a remake, and I highly recommend it if you enjoy puzzle platforming games. Tomb Raider 2. Alright, so I didn't actually get very far in this game, but there's a good reason for that. Most of my enjoyment came from the bonus mode, which allowed you to explore Lara's mansion and take on various training exercises. But that wasn't exactly why I enjoyed it so much. You see, we were never alone, as there was always a trusty butler hovering around with his little tea tray. This gave my friend and I so many ideas to troll him, which included locking him in the freezer. Hilarious. We used to think this was a unique thing which only we enjoyed, but it turns out many of you also did this. We're all just sick. Poor frozen butler. We should probably go and raid some tombs. You know, as the game intended. Alundra. This was a game I played a lot at another friend's house, and I just loved it. As a kid, I always tried to find this game to purchase for myself, but never could. And sad story is that even until today, I still haven't ever played it again. Perhaps after making this video, I should rectify that. The game had very strong Zelda vibes, but felt a little darker in presentation and setting. Was the game as good as I remember it? According to other YouTubers, it certainly is, but I look forward to finally being able to give it another go, and I pray it has survived the test of time. JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Again, another 1v1 fighter, and on top of that, it's based on an anime which I had never seen or heard of before, but the game is really good. Normally these kind of games have a paper-thin story mode, but JoJo was different. Not only did it follow a really interesting story, I assume based on the anime series, it also had a bunch of mini-games from top-down shooters to reflex-based quicktime events. The characters and their powers are the most interesting part, with each of them connected to some sort of spirit. Even the little dog has its own spirit to fight with, as the game isn't afraid to get a little goofy. It seems that a fighting game can grow on me if the single player content is done right, and that's exactly what JoJo's Bizarre Adventure has managed to do. Croc. Maybe not the most famous or memorable of the 3D platformers on the PS1, but a good one that stayed in my mind at least. One thing that hinders the game is the fact that it uses tank controls. Yeah, you heard that right. A 3D platformer with tank controls similar to Tomb Raider. Not exactly the most appealing when you have Crash and especially Spyro who control much more fluidly. I can't remember too many details about the levels, but I thought it was worth including for nostalgia's sake. 007 Tomorrow Never Dies. Now this was a fantastic action game. We may not have had GoldenEye on the PlayStation, but I really enjoyed this offering. It's a third-person game as opposed to the first-person view of GoldenEye, but at the time, third-person games were far more favourable. The opening level was a lot of fun, as you had to infiltrate an airbase to plant explosives and then make your getaway on a pair of skis, avoiding trees and, most importantly, enemy gunfire. It's rare that a James Bond game truly caught my attention, so this one remains as one of the very best. Yeah, GoldenEye can take a hike. Spider-Man. Forget the latest Spider-Man games from Insomniac, even the great Spider-Man 2 from the PS2 era. PS1 Spider-Man was where it was at. Okay, it's a bit dated now, but at the time this was a great game back when the webs you swung could simply stick to the sky instead of the buildings, because screw realism. I had such a good time with this game and its sequel, and for its time it was just as big a deal as the latest and greatest Spider-Man games. Just a tad technically subpar. Ape Escape. With a lot of 3D platformers floating about at the time, just how on earth could you stand out from the crowd? By allowing you to capture rogue sentient monkeys, of course! With a science experiment gone wrong, a now highly intelligent ape sets loose a barrage of others, each with their own mind device. It's up to you to capture enough apes in order to move to the subsequent stages. And don't be fooled, they aren't so easy to catch with their evasive manoeuvres and hiding spots. It's a highly creative game which is just a breath of fresh air to play as you unlock new gadgets to aid you on your mission. Toy Story 2. When it comes to 3D collectathon platformers, it doesn't get much better than this. Don't discard the game for a mere tie-in. Toy Story 2 is a great example of how to do a movie licensed game right. I was a huge fan of the original Toy Story game on the Sega Mega Drive, so it was incredible to see the evolution of the game on a brand new piece of hardware. Now you could explore many locations from the film in full 3D, just like the films themselves. Back then a lot of Disney platformers followed the same formula, as you could get involved in a lot of activities and objectives in order to unlock enough tokens to progress, much like in the Spyro games. A great way to get into gaming from a young age. And those are 17 of the games I grew up with on the PS1, which inspired me in one way or another to become a game dev. I'll be back with part 2 to share more influential PS1 games, but until then, why not share your own games or stories down below in the comments of PS1 games you enjoyed back then and which ones you think I may have missed out on. I'd love to give them a try. A big thank you to our additional supporters through channel memberships and Patreon. Join us on our journey as we cover and create video games to inspire. Subscribe down below or on your screen now. See you in the next LBA video.